Hello and welcome back to my channel, Checks, Captures, Threads, and today's video will be going over the Catalan opening. So this opening for white is kind of a mix between Queen's Gambit, but also the likes of Areti, and how we're going to be manoeuvring our bishop in this opening for white. So, let's go through it then. Now, as per usual actually in this opening kind of ventures from the Queen's Gambit, as I've said here. So, here, they're trying to play a Nimzo, and we play the move g3. So a very outrageously, off really put in there. And now we get the move d5 and bishop to g2, actually giving up this pawn half the time. And there we go. Now, from here, let's see what we have. So, obviously, as I say there, we can Frenchietto the bishop. But we're also going to be pressuring that queen side because of after this, and we have this capture. This is going to be very weak, this file now. So we're going to be able to get our rook in and very easily try and attack that queen side. Get our queen on the natural c2 square, and anything like that will be strong. Maybe not at the minute, as we've got to do some protecting. So maybe getting this out and everything. Maybe trying to get this bishop out and then push the pawn and get a nice little pawn structure here to protect the king when you castle it. Now, obviously, as I say there, you're going to have that flexible pawn structure. So if I just show you a few moves here, we could try this. And as you see, you've got that little nice arrow sort of kind of, thing. But here, you also can get your knight into a nice little pocket as well. So that would be quite good. And then you can also get queen to e2 now as well, queen to even a4 or c2 if you really feel that adventurous and aggressive type. Now, also, as you see there, it's not too fast the build up. As you see, we're pushing the pawns at 1 here at the minute, and the knight's going to come out and the queen, and then castling is slow. Okay, as black will be as well, and I'm only going over white at the minute, but black also has quite. I mean, black really is just playing a normal Queen's Gambit. As if you know how to do that as black, you don't really need to know too much else. Just other than if you do capture here, make sure. This is a very big make sure. Do not do this. Just maybe here's some sort of ideas that you want to do a little trade-off thing. It's not the worst maybe there, but you're gonna get your rook trapped if you ever do that, and it's always a common thing that the bishop can always take that when it's Frenchietto. So just make sure you don't do that. So this is actually also called the open Catalan, obviously because it's opening up the centre here, and realistically here either side actually has good fighting chance. I would say moves now, what we're looking at is probably knight to f3. You might see some checks come out here, and something like this maybe could happen, attacking that pawn now, and they could even go aggressive here as black. Black can be aggressive. The issue here is you open this, so you've got to be very careful. Now luckily there is moves you can do like this, maybe, that just about might save you, but realistically you've got stuff like this as well. So that's a bit more in depth. It might not be exact there of what you want to do, but there. And we can have a closed Catalan, which is just not taking. And you can actually go as far as wanting to play the move c5 and really putting pressure on that whole centre. And it's kind of like the I think it's called like the Tarrasch version or something. And yeah, and it kind of leaves out, I believe it actually leaves a isolated pawn for someone. So if you take, okay, well, if they were to take here as what they will in the end, you see that isolated pawn that they get, even though it is quite a good pawn, and these two pawns have gone as well. But it can always lead to quite difficult positions. So, is there really any other openings for it? Well, you can obviously do really any other move from this position, or you can take, really. That's really the options. I mean, you could even probably bring this knight in, and you can also, if you want to go semi-Slav-like, you can also play the move c6, which I actually really like as black, even though you lose a little bit maybe of engine value, but it's still book moves. So, and if there was to take here, like something like this, you can massively open up this file. Maybe you can actually do this and actually get your bishop out a little bit, and now it looks quite strong. So, what are the common themes here? So, obviously, pressure on the long diagonal between obviously that A8 and H1 diagonal here, as you can see. And we're going to have weakness on black's queen side, as we can see, because this, if there was to capture here, we're already pushing pawns, as you can see. The first two moves really push 2 pawns closer to the queen side. So, obviously, we're going to be trying to attack that C file, and especially C7. We're going to be attacking with our rook and our queen. That's going to be moves like, if I just make a load of moves now, we're going to get is this. Let's do this. So you see queen gets to C2. I'm just making, I know that pawn's weak, let me just do that. But we're going to have this sort of thing. We're going to be trying to attack here. This pawn will go, and then obviously we can attack here with the B4, A4 pushes, and anything like that, and we try and double up here. Okay. Now, knight maneuvering as well. So, we're going to have a lot of knight on B, as you saw there as well. Knight on B to D2, and then we're going to also have there to B3, and sometimes on knight to F3, to then D2, and then also to B3 sometimes as well. You want to get a knight on that B3 square. And obviously, we said there's some typical pawn breaks here of E4 here, A4, and D5. So this is where we're going to try and break up some of the structures that they're going to be trying to stop. You know, this obviously, we obviously know that this is where the whole centre is. So that is the Catalan. Just before I finish here, we've got who plays the Catalan. So if you wanted to know, Magnus and Anish Giri. Hopefully you know both of them. I think you should know Magnus. And I think here we've got one last thing, which is the pros and the cons. So, and this is what I believe. The pros, I think, is very solid. I think that this is pretty much for white. I think this is, you know, and black actually, it's very solid for either side, should I say. Because obviously, if you like tranchettering, you know, and you like to have that defense in the king side, as you can see, let's just take and we do this. You know, we're going to have a very nice position here, in already as in protection wise on the king, and it's going to be very difficult for black to break that. On the other side as well, I think black has many different setups, and I feel like, you know, that could be a problem for white. That's my con for white, I would say, in the fact that, you know, black has so many choices. But I do think, though, the only thing is, if you can play the Catalan properly after the opening phase, it's going to be very difficult for black to try and equalise up. If they play best moves, obviously they will, but it can be very difficult. And you get strong positional pressure, as you obviously are already. You make 2 moves already to try and just get the bishop onto a certain square. And if you like to play with control and having space on the board, this would probably be a better opening. So it's not fully tactical because it's a queen's opening, but also the fact that it's, you know, it's obviously got a bit of positional into it as well. So that is going to be it for today's video. So hopefully you enjoyed the Catalan. So thank you and bye bye.